My guest today is Alex, who is the head of AI partnerships and strategy at FactSet. Alex, you've worked through multiple major shifts in the industry, from electronification to mobile and AI. As AI becomes a new access layer, how does FactSet continue to serve as a backbone for financial intelligence?
Yeah, it's great to be here. This is a super exciting time. I think we haven't seen, this level of change, but I think history shows us when these types of changes happen, a few things. First, the incumbents who really dive into the change and lead end up doing better than those that sort of sit back. No one wants to be a blockbuster, if you will. So you dive in. Secondarily, I think the systems of record, those that are heavily relied on, and certainly in regulated industries, FactSet and financial services is used throughout the industry that makes the markets go, are well positioned and actually see advantages in terms of new distribution and new layers as the front ends may change and evolve. So certainly a very interesting period of time. It's dynamic. With the advent of AI and agents, that really relies on trusted, highly enriched, reliable, real-time data. FactSet has both structured, unstructured data moving across the trade and investment lifecycle. So we see tremendous opportunity through this period of significant change.
How is FactSet integrating AI in agentic interfaces in a way that strengthens governance, which, as you say, it's very important, auditability, and workflow orchestration rather than weakening them?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think first off, about 7 years ago, we started to transform our technology foundation from just really being a workstation or think terminal type business to opening it up. So that really, we moved to the cloud, not just with Databricks, AWS, the major cloud providers, but also became API first. And those are some of the key building blocks that allow us to take advantage of this agentic layer. I think as AI comes in and as things are really moving quite fast, the key is to maintain that trust, the governance, the permissioning, the auditability. That's where something like Databricks, the Unity catalog, the observability, evaluation, quality, all of these things become absolutely critical in a world of not just AI, but now increasing agents, even with human in the loop. Our clients, financial services, clients across wealth, banking, buy side, in any segment of financial services, people want to trust and they need to know what was the source of that answer? Where did it come from? So it's that level from whatever that front end is, all the way back sourcing to the source data, the original document, becomes absolutely critical in this era.
As clients increasingly combine structured and unstructured data through agentic interfaces, what role does trusted, regulated data play in making AI-driven workflows usable in actual practice?
It's super interesting. If for most of the time in financial services, we've had a tremendous amount of both structured and unstructured data. So structured data, think about fundamentals on a company or the ownership of a company, supply chain, M&A data, unstructured data, news, filings, transcripts. They've really lived in some silos, and certainly many functions have relied either on one or the other. The research analyst relies on both, but tons of unstructured data. But things like risk and others have really been heavily, focused on structured data and just the quantification or performance of portfolios. And we're now seeing the value with AI of those two coming together. So the ability to break down those data silos and then provide value on top. At FactSet, our strategy is to provide intelligence and insights on top of that data. So what we're really doing is, we're making sure that the data isn't just yesterday's data feed, but it's enriched. It's enriched with metadata. We vectorize the data. So whether it's the LLM knows how to go find the right source of data, or what really makes it come alive in a financial services workflow are two things. It's both context and reasoning. So the context is making sure not just say in a prompt, what is the basis of the question you're asking, but in someone's workflow to understand the source and the value of that data, and then the reasoning. So what's super exciting about the agents is it's no longer just a one-step or a two-step process. The ability to provide this value across multiple steps is where the reasoning comes into play. So if you combine the high-quality data with context, with reasoning, now this is, I think, what's so exciting for not only financial services, but all kinds of industries to really think about how work was done before and how work's going to be done in the future. And it's really just shortening the cycle that it takes for a human to get more value. So instead of having to do hours or days of work, you get to a faster place. You still need that human to provide that next level intelligence.
At the heart of FactSet's data moat is its data model. How does that foundation translate into higher quality AI products? And really, the talk of this year is more reliable outcomes.
Yeah, so FactSet for a long time has pulled together vast array of data from multiple sources, say even on a single company or security. So what we call our concordance layer or symbology is a really complex web of making sure if you're talking about a company, Apple, across all the various sources, we ensure that we're talking about the right Apple, as in Apple computer, and not the Macintosh Apple or a different Apple of a prior year, a different vintage. So making sure we have both identifiers and that ability to bring multiple data sets together. So we're always sure we're talking about that same entity, that same security, and then that rolls up where we add a tremendous amount of value is at the portfolio level. But it really starts at that foundation. So it's not a simple data, you're matching two or three different things, or even a two-dimensional. It's hyper complex, and this is where we've spent really 40 years perfecting, constantly modernizing that level of foundational concordance. That forms the backbone upon which FactSet ends up being built and providing value, as opposed to just an LLM sourcing a lot of data that may be publicly available in a news, a transcript, a filing. That's certainly available. And there's a lot of value as the LLMs are starting to summarize that, a lot of value for research analysts and shortening the cycle. But when you're really involved in more complex, big M&A, financial decisions, big trades, portfolios, that level of complexity becomes super important, and really understand things that have through mergers, dividends, and all the changes that happen across financial services are all taken into account. So you have that 5 nines, 100% trust when you're making a decision, and you can source it all the way back. And Databricks provides a tremendous platform. So as we think about the lineage, the source linking, making sure we have strong control over not just the models, but into how we control the costs, how we control all aspects of the LLM and really the agentic flow from the user all the way back down to this source data. Databricks is a very scalable platform that we use ourselves.
Basically enabling you to actually focus on where you really provide that value for your customers.
I think that's a great point. What's super fascinating about this era is the value chain, if you will, and where different companies have historically provided value. As the technology is advancing, really most companies are having to really rethink where is our competitive advantage? What is it that we do where we're either best in world, best in class, top 3 provider, and what are those components we can rely on partners for? So for us, It starts with our data. We've been a market data leader. There's only a handful in the world. We're known for many capabilities, certain data sets, certain workflows, FactSets, estimates. You go on and on. So it's figuring those pieces out. We also are an analytics and software provider, but we're not going to obviously build all the software analytics, scalable AI systems ourselves. So whether it's model providers, hyperscalers, and certainly firms like Databricks are absolutely key. So exactly right. We can focus on what we're really great at and provide even more value to our joint clients.
Recently, you've launched an MCP server. How does that actually help a client's AI get to the right question or the right context faster?
I'm very excited about the advent of the MCP. It's really the first standard that has enabled a real acceleration in this agentic world. It's not the last standard, and there's certainly others like A to A. But what MCP does, similar to the API standards and JSON, it provides the ability for those who are commingling data sources from multiple places, multiple providers, to make sure they can do it, and the agents can talk to one another. This is absolutely key. Now, not all MCPs are created equal. So what's underlying the MCP for FactSet, our MCP, relies on what we've talked about here, the quality of our data. But we've made sure within the MCP, we've provided enough guidance to the LLMs and adding more and more knowledge so that they can be even more effective. I think this is just the beginning. We are going to see more standards emerge, but also, as you can see with what's coming now, things like skills, tools, and other capabilities. The MCP alone doesn't necessarily enable all the magic, but it provides an ability for clients to start to have confidence to say, I can build this solution and get ROI, as opposed to having to do a lot of data manipulation and engineering of the data, which is what AI and ML data scientists were doing for years. Not that they couldn't provide value, but it was so much more work. We've really shortened the cycle, and I think the MCP, advent of it is a very exciting development.
How is FactSet using Databricks internally to help ensure institutional grade quality of the data products your clients rely on their own software?
We use Databricks quite extensively within FactSet to help run and process our AI. So we started with the ML operations. We're using the Unity catalog. We use Databricks to ensure that our own data is managed in a way so we have great purview into that, and we can create solutions for our own employees based on access to the data, as well as to support as we create products. So more and more aspects of Databricks solution become really critical to what we do, and certainly excited to see the focus on evaluation, quality, because this is the heart of any great solution. And with the advent of agents, everyone was concerned in the early days about hallucinations. And now with agents, even more so, making sure that the quality of answers and the reliability is key. And I think what Databricks has done, thinking through both the AI stack, but also rethinking database architecture and so forth, has benefited so many companies and industries as we move forward.
When you combine FactSet's open and auditable platform with Databricks' scalable AI frameworks, how does that help clients deliver institutional grade workflows and regulatory compliance as technology layers evolve?
Yeah, we haven't even touched upon the trust, the security, the reliability in depth. Certainly, I mentioned it in terms of FactSet, but when you combine the serious quality checking up and down of FactSet's data into our systems as we deliver today, with Databricks' approach of very scalable, robust, reliable systems, that starts to become a very powerful combination for clients who want to take advantage of new workflows and new solutions and build upon something that can take them to the next level. FactSet has solved the entity resolution problem, as we talked about, for individual securities, and layered on the ability to really understand portfolios, multi-asset class portfolios, and thinking about that whole trade and investment lifecycle. You combine that with Databricks' scalable AI-based frameworks and observability, I think then you start to talk about new engines for capital markets. In the regulated markets, I think the primary moats are around key data, auditable data embedded within client workflows. So an open ecosystem architecture, which both firms really adhered to. We're API first. We want to meet our clients where they are. Nobody wants to be sending data back and forth. So I think Databricks has really architected itself for the modern age. FactSet is diving into what we call FactSet intelligence, which is really to provide these insights wherever we can meet the clients and those customers who want to, really be leaders in the space. Combining FactSet with Databricks are sort of really well positioned to take advantage of both the new technology and just the massive amount of data that's going to be required from structured, unstructured, and of course the data that agents will produce. Because while we may go to sleep this evening, you can certainly have agents that run 24/7. May not be cost effective, but the amount of data we see continuing to increase. So I think the industry will continue to change extensively. AI is changing how the data gets surfaced, and we're helping to define this next era together in terms of financial intelligence.